Hello, everybody, and welcome to welcome back to Your Overseas Home, our virtual event. My name is still Christopher Nye, Senior Editor at Your Overseas Home and Property Guides. Just a quick reminder that Your Overseas Home also offers property consultations via our English-speaking call centre based in the UK. So do look at our website and book one of those in for next week, and we can really get you motoring towards that home in Portugal. Enough about us and on to Portugal. The financial and tax essentials are moving to Portugal, where I'm joined by Robert Webb of Chase Buchanan, who we've spoken to before at these events, and he really knows his stuff. So do please put your questions, just type them into the questions box. And after we've finished, you still got 45 minutes to ask your questions through the at the exhibitors' booths through the Ask the Expert button. So, Robert, are you based in somewhere nice and warm and sunny, or like me, are you stuck back in the UK?
Well, I hate to depress you. It's warm and sunny. I'm in the central Algarve, just north of Katira, Villamora. It's about 22.
Lovely.
Blue sky, fluffy clouds. It's lovely. Sorry.
Well, we've got you stuck inside, but I imagine your sun won't be setting at 4 o'clock like ours will.
No, definitely not.
Okay, well, Robert's made my life easier with by bringing a presentation. So I'm going to switch the presentation on, and I'll let Robert talk us through it, and then we will just get this going, and then we will answer all your questions. So let me get that going. Is that one? I think it's that one. Okay, has that come up?
Yep.
Great.
There we go. All right. Okay, that's obviously the opening slide. So a warm welcome to everybody. I hope you're going to enjoy what I'm going to say. There is quite a lot of detail in here, but I think it's all going to be relevant. If you have a problem, with the volume in the amount of time, don't worry. There'll be an email address contact for me at the end of the presentation. Just drop me a line and I'll send you a copy of all the slides. No problems at all. Okay, so need to go back. Just to open up a little bit about Chase Buchanan. We are an international financial services organization, and we are licensed in many jurisdictions. The important one is right on the far left-hand side there. It's in Cyprus. We are registered with CISEC. That's basically the equivalent of the UK FCA. This is our investment license. It is what is called MiFID. It's a pan-European system. So that enables us to advise individuals in the EU on investment matters. The second column is our insurance passport. Same thing, we can advise anybody throughout Europe on insurance products, and we do use those quite substantially. They're used far more in the European market than probably the UK, so we need that license as well. We are also currently licensed with the UK FCA, so that's a degree of comfort. We also have our own tax department who deal with cross-border issues. And we do get involved in a lot of that. So it's really quite important to have experts as a backup. Lastly, the last column there, we are fully licensed in the United States. Now, this is really quite significant because there are very few advisors in Europe who have this registration. It's becoming more important because the number of inquiries that are happening from America have grown quite substantially in the last year or so. So do not worry, if you are from America, we can advise you. Okay, this is just to give you a flavor of our offices across Europe. So we're in Belgium, Portugal, Spain, Cyprus, Malta. We recently opened up in Malta, but equally we're in Canada as well, and of course the United Kingdom. So we're widely spread. We've got a significant number of personnel working for us. We're widely experienced in the international field, and we're basically here to help you. Okay. This is just a little brief snapshot of the services that we offer, the products that we offer, and they go from UK SIPs to offshore CUROP pensions, right the way through to financial planning, obviously, education fees, life and critical illness. So we cover a wide spectrum of subjects and topics, and we will be able to advise most everybody on virtually any subject, any financial subject. So again, we've got all that covered. Okay, now I'm going to deal with this discussion in 3 parts, okay? The first part is going to be visas, what you need to do to get them to come down here to live. Then I'm going to deal with tax in Portugal. And then finally, I'm going to deal with tax planning issues in Portugal. So it's 3 separate parts. So the first one, for EU nationals moving to Portugal, this is simplicity itself. So the example I always use here is Ireland. So in other words, Irish people coming down here to live. So the first thing is that I think we jumped a slide here. Okay. Yes. This is for EU nationals. You do not need a visa to come down here at all. You have complete freedom of movement. All you've got to do is to register with CEF, which is the immigration department here, after 90 days. That's all you have to do. It is so simple. You then get a fiscal number, which is your tax number. You need to show you have sufficient funds in order to support yourself, but then you get all the extra benefits into healthcare. You can either use your own or you can go into the national system. Your stay would be valid for 5 years, and at the end of it, you can get permanent residence and citizenship in Portugal. So for EU nationals, this is total simplicity. Right, now we move on to non-EU nationals. Now this is where it starts to get a bit tricky. So what we're talking about here are people from the UK, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, America, anywhere outside the EU. Right, now again, this is a 3-stage process, really. Okay, 3 stages. Right, the first one is come down here for 90 days. Anybody can come down here in Portugal for 90 days because it's within the Schengen area. So you do not need a visa. So you can hop on a plane, come down here for 90 days, travel around, do whatever you like. No restrictions, no impositions, no nothing. That 90 days obviously gives you a fantastic opportunity to have a really good look at the place, talk to estate agents, talk to solicitors, talk to us, so you get a feel for it. Now, you may have come down here on holiday many years previously, so this is a bit of a recce. This is a bit of a kind of, let's go and see exactly what this place is all about. Whilst you're here, you need to get a tax number. It's called a NIF, and you need to open up a bank account as well. Now, probably best to get an agent to do that, but the relevance of this will become apparent later. Now, once you go back home after your 90-day visit or up to 90 days, you can do 2 things. You can put your own property on the market, and you can apply for an entry visa to Portugal, okay? You do this in the consulate of your home country. Now, taking the UK, for example, there's a consulate in Manchester and there's one in London. So you just get hold of them and say, look, I want an entry visa, and off you go. It does take quite a while to go through. I would say it's probably about 2 to 3 months to go through. But the visa would then be valid for 120 days. So you can come down here and move the process of movement further forward. So again, the timing is critical because you've got to look at perhaps buying and selling property, and that's never easy. But allow 2 or 3 months, even in the UK, because paperwork does take a bit of time. Okay, so that's stage 1, stage 2. Okay, can we move on there, Chris? Right, now this is stage 3. Now, when you get here, you'll need to apply for a residence visa. Okay, so the first stage is Schengen visit, no visa. The second stage is the entry visa for 120 days. And then the third stage is the residence visa. And this effectively is your permanent residence status. For most people that we deal with, they would apply for a D7, what's called a D7. And again, you have to go through all the formalities. You'll need a minimum income, which is for a couple is 12,690 euros. And that effectively, by and large, will be covered by state pensions. So it's not a significant amount of money, okay? You would then need to register with the tax authority, financiers. You can register with the National Health here, or you can use your own health insurance, whichever you prefer. I have actually used the National Health. I had an operation last year, absolutely fine. No problems at all, none whatever. Now, the benefits of the D7, family reunification. So in other words, spouse, civil partner, minor children under 18, under 21, they can all come in on your visa. Again, you would get 5 years residency for that. And then after that, you would be able to apply for permanent residency and a Portuguese passport. So again, very, very, very kind of simple, really, but be warned that the paperwork can be immense and it's not the fastest. So please don't think that all this stage 1, 2, and 3 is going to happen in 10 minutes, because it isn't. It could probably take you at the very least 6 months to complete all 3, maybe even up to a year. A lot would depend on obviously the property sales, how quick, and the purchases, how quick they go through. So that's basically how you get down here. Okay. Now then, this one now is a separate visa. It's what is called a golden visa. You might have heard about it. Again, it's for non-EU nationals. Okay. So it's the same thing. All you need to do, come down here for 90 days, and then you can apply for the golden visa either through residential property purchase, investing in various funds, or into business investment, that kind of categories. There's about 5 or 6 of them, but obviously the most used one is the residential property. Now, it gets a bit tricky now because the rules all changed last year. The one to look at really is probably residential property in the interior. Now, the coastal strip, north to south and west to east, that's basically finished. You would not be able to get a residential property in there. There is a space going south from Lisbon to Sagres, which is in the far west. that is available for golden visa, and the far east of Algarve, bordering Spain, that's also possible. But you only need 400,000, and okay, that sounds a lot of money, but in some respects, with property prices down here, it's not a lot. And they are, as I say, in the interior. So you'll obviously have to take a view on that. You could also buy investment property, so in other words, rental flats, offices, that kind of stuff. And again, the prices vary on that from 350 down to 280. Now, once you've got it, you only need 7 days residence down here. That really is quite significant. The normal basic residence qualification down here for tax purposes is 183 days in the year. So only requiring 7 is quite significant, and it would enable you to handle your tax affairs, you know, very flexibly. You have freedom of movement within the EU. It's valid for 5 years. You get permanent residence after 5 years, and you get a Portuguese passport. So very significant benefits. But there is a PS on this. The Prime Minister at a tech conference in Lisbon last week or so basically announced that the golden visas were going to be under review. Now, the reason for that is, of course, is they've driven up property prices, and of course, there's a lot of domestic feedback, let's put it that way, about this. So golden visa is definitely going to be reviewed, and the tone of his message was basically leaning towards amendment or possible abolition. Malta, for example, has a golden visa, and they are under significant pressure from the European Commission as well. So watch this space, but it may not be as simple in the future as it is at the moment. Okay, so that's the golden visa. Okay, now I'm going to, so those are that's what I would call the first stage. So in other words, how do you get down here? What do you need? What type of visas? Now, moving on to tax. So once you're here, tax. Okay, now probably the most significant part of all this is what is called non-habitual residence. It's really got nothing to do with residence. It's a tax status, okay? And it's for EU nationals, people holding D7s and golden visas. And this would apply to EU and non-EU nationals coming in here to live. The requirement is that you must not have lived in Portugal for the previous 5 years. You have not had NHR status before, but you do need to live here for 183 days. So that would qualify you as a tax resident. Okay, but those are all the hurdles. Here's the good news. The status lasts for 10 years. Income tax on pension income that you receive outside Portugal is at 10% flat for 10 years. So it doesn't matter if your pension is 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever, it's 10%. Okay, it's not banded, 10% right across the board. Equally for dividends, interest and royalties received from outside Portugal, no tax, and that gives you tremendous scope for tax planning. There are other structures available that you can use outside Portugal, basically to reduce total taxation significantly, possibly even to naught. So it's well worth looking at. So those are significant features and well worth looking at. Then the reason is, on the next slide, income tax, normally the bands are 14 to 48%, okay? similar-ish to the UK, a little bit higher. But the point is, of course, if you have NHR, you've got that 10% stroke 0% for 10 years. Massive difference, massive. Capital gains tax down here is at 28%. There's no personal allowance like there is in the UK, so 28%, that's quite hefty. Good news is there's no wealth tax. Property tax is levied on properties over 1.2 million for joint ownership. It's not a significant amount, so don't worry too much. VAT, well, that's standard everywhere now, 23%. No inheritance tax in Portugal, okay? But UK domiciles would probably still be liable for UK IHT, even though they don't live in the UK and they live down here in Portugal, okay? But there are ways to plan to reduce or even avoid inheritance tax altogether. Right, so that deals with the tax rate. Now we're going to deal with some planning aspects. Right, now the first one is for attendees in the UK. If you come down here and you've got your UK IFA or your UK advisor, your stockbrokers, whatever it is, once you're here as resident, they can no longer advise you on financial products, okay? Basically because of Brexit, that's it. UK pensions, the consensus there is that you should take your tax-free cash from your pension, should that be the case, before departure, because the tax-free cash in the UK is not tax-free in Portugal. It is taxable. So that's something you really need to look at. If you've got a UK SIP, you possibly need to look at transferring that. You can use what's called a CUROP, which effectively is an offshore pension. It's becoming a very complex area, this, and you're going to need specialist advice. So if you do have pensions which you have not taken before you come down here, you need to talk to us before you get here. UK ISAs, okay, tax-free in the UK, not in Portugal. They're all taxed at 28%. So that's a big, big difference. So you'll need to review the ISAs before you get down here. Even if you leave them in the UK and you don't do anything with them, as long as you're a resident here in Portugal, it's going to be 28%. Stocks and shares in the UK, if you've got a portfolio in the UK, that's going to be taxable down here at 28% as well. So that's something else to look at. UK investment bonds, these are a type of insurance bonds from people like Aviva, Standard Life, effectively tax favorable, let's put it that way, tax favorable in the UK, but not down here. So if you still have your investment bond in the UK, it's taxable in Portugal. Irish pensions, now this in its own is a topic for a seminar. It's unbelievable. The big problem with Irish pensions is that if you take a certain type of income, which is probably the most common available in Ireland, if you take that in Ireland and then you come down here to live with that Irish income, pension income, it will still be taxable in Ireland, okay? And possibly here as well. So it's a big, big problem. And not many people are completely aware of it. So if you do have an Irish pension and you're going to come down here, you need to talk to us before you get on that plane. Otherwise, you could be in for a nasty tax bill. Okay. All right. UK visits. Once you're down here as a permanent resident, the number of days that you can go back into the UK are restricted by what is called the statutory residence test. And basically what they mean is there's a maximum number of days that you can stay in the UK before you become tax resident there. So you obviously don't want to be tax resident in Portugal, and you don't want to be tax resident in the UK at the same time. Now, this is banded. The number of days that you can go into the UK, it goes from 16 right the way through to 182, 183. It all depends on your circumstances. And if you exceed your band days, you would become tax resident in the UK. So you need to be very careful about that. Finally, two tax planning products for you, two topics for you. Portuguese compliant investment bond. This really is effectively the only major tax efficient vehicle lump sum available in Portugal. It is very similar to a UK investment bond, and it is something that you should be aware of, particularly if you've got NHR. Okay, so the main features here are no capital gains tax on any growth. So if it starts at 100 and it goes to 110, there's no tax on that 10. No income tax on withdrawals if you've got NHR. Now, if you remember, NHR lasts for 10 years. So you could have a 10-year tax-free income stream. Unbelievable, absolutely brilliant. Even if you do it after year 1 or 2, you've still got 8 or 9 years tax-free. Once NHR runs out, the actual tax rates on withdrawals are very favorable. Now, I won't go into it because it's not very easy to explain. That it's banded in several ways. So rather than go through all that, basically what I would say is that the tax rates after NHR are very favorable. I'll finally return to UK inheritance tax. A lot of people who come out of the UK, they come down here and they think, I'm out of inheritance tax. No, you're not. You're absolutely not. There's a principle called deemed domicile. And for those of you who are UK domiciles, you're going to still be UK domicile for 5 years after departure. And really, there's nothing you can do about it. So you remain a UK domicile for 5 years for sure. And that means that your worldwide assets, and that would include anything you've got left in the UK, anything you've got here, anything you've got in Johannesburg, anything you've got in Australia, it's all in the pot. Now, the problem here is the pot starts at 325,000. So anything over 325,000 will be hit with a 40% tax. Okay, and sorry to repeat it, but remember this: even if you've still lived in Portugal for a number of years, it's still likely that you are a UK domicile and your estate is liable to the tax. You need good, solid advice on this because there are various ways and methods that you can use to eliminate or even reduce it altogether. Okay, that's UK inheritance tax. Now, general conclusions. Everything down here is different. The language is different, lifestyle is different, driving on the road is different, everything is different. And at first, it's all a bit daunting. Now, particularly with the paperwork to get the visas, to get your driving license, to register here, to register there, you really do need a local agent. If you try to do it yourself, you'll go round and round in circles and end up pulling out all your hair because it can be very, very frustrating. So please get yourself a really good agent. We can obviously help you with that, but to me, it's a very big thing. We also work with lawyers, accountants, and estate agents. We can help you with that. So if you're looking for, say, a particular property, you're not quite sure, we've got a number of agents that we can recommend to you, and lawyers and accountants. And this is after a couple of years trial and error. So the contacts we have are very reliable, very good. All the figures that I've said really are just obviously by way of examples to show you exactly what might and might happen. Any advice on any financial planning aspects, we're obviously more than happy to help you. It's not quite as straightforward as you think. So it's not as easy as getting on the plane, coming down here and then forgetting about everything else. You're moving into a different box. You're moving into a different world. So strategies, planning has to change, or it has to adapt to your new circumstances. And we've been doing this for a number of years now, so we can certainly help you overcome those particular issues. And finally, those are my contact details. If you just drop me an email, I'm happy to send you all the slides and, of course, answer any questions that you have now or at any time. It's whichever, obviously, is best for you. Well, that's really about it. I hope that was relatively clear. I've covered a hell of a lot of ground there in literally minutes. So I hope it hasn't come as a great big rush to you. But as I say, if it has, ask me for some copies. Just drop me, an email, and I'm happy to send them on to you. So finally, many thanks for listening, attending. I hope you found it useful. And if you've got any questions now or anytime, please do not hesitate to get in touch. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, hang on a second. Although we've kind of run over time, I just thought I'd just one question. I know that when one buys a property in Portugal, you now need some sort of an accountant, don't you, or some kind of a tax statement. Is that correct? So we should be contacting you anyway before buying.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because we can put you on to the relevant accountant, the relevant estate agent, because you do need these contacts. Trying to do it all on your own is absolute nightmare, and getting around a new system is pretty daunting, and you do need a helping hand. So yes, we can help with that. Yeah.
And is there a kind of upfront fee before speaking to you, or how does that work?
No, not for us. No, not at all. You would have to agree a fee with, say, the accountant or the estate agent, obviously, and lawyers. But to talk to us, no, there's no fee. No fee.
Okay, brilliant. So let me just stop sharing because I need to.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Robert from Chase Buchanan. Really interesting, really in depth, and really easy to relate to. So thank you for making it all simple. Thank you for making it all so simple. Not the easiest of subjects. And I do hope that you'll pop over to Chase Buchanan's booth and contact them directly after the show, and move ahead with your plans to buy in Portugal, because it's a wonderful, wonderful country.
Yeah, it sure is. Sure is. Okay. Thanks again for your time, Chris, and everybody else who's attended. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.